Hi there, you're listening to Unnatural Selection, the show about newsy type stuff and things. My name is George.
My name is Tom.
And with our powers combined, we are Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. I nearly said financial selection. I think that's because I'm doing too much uni work and just finances are on the brain.
You're doing too much uni work around finances. You're just for fun reading. What was that book you were talking about last week?
The Lords of Easy Money.
The Lords of Easy Money. You just money on the brain, George.
It's believe it or not, that was a fun read. That was like me taking some time for myself.
your time off some finance uni homework.
I was just like, valuing stocks and bonds is boring. Let's hear about the money supply instead.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I mean, I work.
I might be the most boring person in existence.
I work in IT engineering, and I read about code and tech and stuff sometimes outside of work. And that's work. But
good times.
Love what you do, George, and you'll never work a day in your life.
Love me some spreadsheets. I did find a new function in my Excel spreadsheets, which is pretty cool. So
tell me, I love new Excel functions. Enlighten me.
It's not like a it's like nothing overly sexy. Like it's something I probably should have known already, but I discovered it today because I was like trying to find a solution to a problem I was working on. And so there's the count function. You just count X amount of values. You've got 100 things in this list. How many are there? There's 100, right? But you can do count if, which gives you like conditional criteria to count specific things and not other things. So you can set it to like values above 0, count them. If they're below 0, don't count them. And then you can do like conditional formatting on that. So it's like anything that's negative values goes into the red, and anything positive values goes into the green. So that's very exciting.
It's beautiful. It's great. Chuck that in a pivot table and mwah.
Yeah, I'm not as like I'm getting onto the pivot tables now because of unis. This is so fucking boring. Everyone's tuned out. Everyone's gone.
Goodbye, our audience. But I am here for Excel chat.
This is just you and me having a chat about Excel. Was it you that was telling me that you were having a chat with someone in a bar about Excel?
Yeah, it was at my partner's comedy festival show, and I was just catching up with people after the show. And, some of my partner's friends who I hadn't seen in a while, they're like, what's up with you? And I was like, I work in IT now and blah, blah, blah. And we were talking and they were like, so do I. And I use going through so many Excel features and stuff. Like, you think you learn these things in school, blah, blah, blah. And so she and I just got on to like going, oh man, no, I love using Excel now, right? And we were just talking about cool functions that we'd learned, like you and I just were. And then another person said, sorry, are you guys talking about how much you love using Excel? And we were like, oh, yeah. And she said, you're in a bar. Like, it was just a thing of like, this isn't
That's so much shade to throw. It's like, fuck you, person. People like what they like, okay? You got to deal with it.
Realize it was said in like concern. Like, you realize you're in a bar. You know where you are right now? Like, this isn't where we talk about work things. We don't talk about our love of spreadsheets in the place of alcohol.
I'm sorry you don't have love in your life. I don't know what to tell you. There's another one a cool one that we put together. Gracie and I are like assessing financially could we potentially buy a 3-bedroom house 45 kilometers away from the city at the end of the year? Could we maybe do that?
No.
Can we make that happen financially? Maybe it depends on interest rates, right? So what we did is we put together the loan repayment function in Excel called PMT. So you can put in a loan repayment amount. So what we did is we put a table. So interest rates going up. So 3.25, 3.5%, 4.25, and we had a table going that way.
So you pre-calculated, like, if the interest rate goes to here, it means this.
Yeah, and then the amounts that we would conceivably borrow on the other side. So 720, 740, 760. And then we've got this, like, color-coded spreadsheet of, like, because we've worked it all out with formulas, we can see, depending on exactly how much we borrow and exactly what the interest rate goes to, what our repayments would be per month for those values. And I just out-nerded every motherfucker on this planet.
Wow, that's...
It's color-coded. It's beautiful. I was watching the news. I was watching the news the other day and they're like, with the interest rates increasing, what people should really do is, think about what their loan repayments are going to be if when the interest rate goes up. And I was like, yeah. Are people not doing this? Do they just take out a loan and they're like, that's my repayment. That's how it'll always be.
George is suddenly just in a monocle and a top hat on the couch being like, yes, I've been doing that for years.
No, but it's like, surely it stands to reason. You go on you don't need to put together a spreadsheet. There's like, you just Google mortgage calculator and go, okay, what does my mortgage repayment look like if the interest rate's 5% as opposed to the 2% that it is now? Like, can I do that? It's like, no one did this before they took out these home loans. People just signed paperwork. Well, what were you guys doing?
I don't know. I guess drinking in bars.
Yeah, drinking in bars.
Fun, George.
Not thinking about spreadsheets. You're right.
Having fun.
Well, when the world falls into chaos, Tom, as the Rothschild said, when blood runs in the streets, buy property. So.
No, when blood runs in the streets, most of you will flee to the bar. You'll find us in our spreadsheets.
So this is a news and comedy podcast, as must obviously be immediately evident to you after having listened to 6 minutes of spreadsheet chat.
Yes, to channel my inner Andy Zaltzman on the Bugle, a section of Unnatural Selection is going in the bin, and that whole Excel chat section is going in the bin.
Yeah, that little audio noise that it makes when you put something in the bin, it goes pa-dunk. That's exactly what that whole section was.
In the bin. Top story this week.
Top story, news and politics. You might have heard there's a federal election coming, and
there is. When?
Anthony Albanese couldn't remember the 6 points of his 6-point plan. Everyone talk about it for 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Elections in less than 3 weeks, but talk about it for 3 weeks.
Yeah, regardless of whether he wins or not, we'll just be talking about the 6-point plan. So you may be shocked to learn that the United Australia Party, which is essentially a gang of yellow-shirted, middle-aged racists, will be preferencing the coalition in key marginal seats after having spent tens to hundreds of millions of dollars on advertising saying you can't trust either of the major parties and therefore we're going to preference one of them over the other.
Yes. Not only I think, one over the other, but I think also like second. Like it's not like they do vote one us and then, these other people we think are good. And then the coalition, Labor and Greens, because, you'd expect that's, gun to their heads when they had to pick out of the 3 of them. We know who they'd pick.
Sure.
But I believe the preferencing in some key like marginal Liberal seats, the preferencing is like vote 1 them, vote 2 Liberal.
Yeah.
It's like, the guys you've told us not to trust.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Like I definitely I expected nothing better out of the United Australia Party, who's just basically an organism to disrupt Labor. Like that's the reason. Really, the only reason it exists is to take big, hot, steamy dumps on the Labor Party. Yeah.
It's a party purely formed to ensure a coalition win.
Why don't we?
That's what they were like last time, right? They assured.
Where are the lefty billionaires? Like that guy from Atlassian who was trying to buy AGL. What was his name?
Can't remember, but I feel like where are the lefty billionaires? I feel probably in order to get to the position of being a billionaire, you got to do some pretty not left things. I feel is the answer to that.
I feel like, for all the George Soroses and all of the, the lefty, Illuminati and all this sort of shit that they think the left has got on our side. It's like, where's a lefty billionaire when you need one? Just some guy to swoop in and just go, I'm just going to drop $100 million on this election for like pro climate change candidates. Or is this just going to go, I'm going to set up my own party, which basically just shits all over the Liberal Party professionally and doesn't win any seats, but costs me $800 million in advertising. Like, where's that guy on the left?
Yeah.
Where they've got them on the right in spades, it seems. But
yeah. Well, it seems it's a good, an excellent argument for caps on election advertising spending. Right? Definitely a thing that we should probably have, because it means that otherwise only people who can drop $100 million on their advertising will have any kind of influence outside of the major parties.
No, you're right. That is a better solution than we need a good billionaire. You're right. We should just have no billionaires involved in the process whatsoever. So Mike Cannon Brooks was the guy's name. Yeah. So
Atlassian guy.
You can tell he's a good guy because he's got a beard and he wears a baseball cap. So that's how you know he's a good guy.
And a blazer over a t-shirt?
Yes, actually, the first picture of him is exactly that. Yes. Not even joking. It is. If you Google Mike Cannon Brooks, it's the first picture that comes up.
Yeah. Blazer over a t-shirt, the billionaire look.
That's how you know. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about this United Australia Party situation, other than of course they are. Of course.
Have self-awareness. They don't have the fortitude to put those two things next to each other and go, wait a minute, those don't work.
Let's be honest. The Venn diagram of racists who would vote for United Australia Party, and the people who would prefer that their preferences go to the coalition rather than Labor. It's not a Venn diagram. It's a fucking circle. They're the same. Yeah. They're all the same people.
It's just a circle. Yeah.
None of those people who are I'm a virulent racist and number 2 preference is the Greens.
Yeah.
0%. That is no people.
If you are a virulent racist who also wants to preference the Greens second, you can reach out to us on our social media. We'd love to hear from you.
I mean, feel free. Our email is unnaturalselectionshow@gmail.com. Titling your email, I'm a virulent racist, but I'm confused about the climate. It's the same thing with the Teal Independents. Who are the Teal Independents going to side with? And the Teal Independents I'm not going to say. I'll never tell. And it's we all know who they're going to say. We all know it's Labor.
Yeah, we all know.
But I'm fine with that because I'm a Labor partisan, so that's fine.
I love that that's always framed, and that's been in my electorate of Goldstein. That's the big push from the sitting member Tim Wilson, right? Yes. From the Liberal Party, of his thing of being they're not independents, they're just the Labor Party under a different name. And I'm no, maybe they just agree on those policy platforms. That's how. Huh?
They're not Labor, because the Labor brand in a lot of these areas is toxic, but they are funded by Climate 200, and they have a mandate. That's the thing. One of the main 3 things that they're running on is, action on climate change, which they're allowed to do. They're allowed to do. It's a democracy. You don't own the seat. So
all the marketing. I sent you a photo of this the other day, George. But yes. I checked my mail one day and we just had fuck tons of just propaganda for the election. But I think except for one pamphlet about the Labor guy in the area, again I can't remember his name. It's the first time I'd ever heard of him because that's clearly how that goes in this seat. But the rest of it was either booklets on how rad Tim Wilson allegedly is, or were just anti-Labor ads, but framed around the independents. It's a very specific strategy that they've got going on there. But there's this thing of wondering who they're going to guarantee supply to. And it's more I don't know, you should be guaranteeing quote unquote supply to anybody. You guarantee supply on a policy by policy basis when you are drafting the legislation. That's how this should work. And the fact that that's not how they think it works is concerning.
No. We're obviously corrupt and take marching orders from someone, so that must be how everyone else operates as well.
It's the Craig Kelly thing all over again, back to United Australia Party, when Craig Kelly left the Liberal Party to then jump ship into the United Australia Party, or it was independent at first, I think, and then made his decision. He was asking, so who gives us the how to vote cards to vote on this issue that's going before the floor?
And Jackie's nobody, you fucking gormless twat.
Yeah.
You have to figure it out yourself. You're independent.
Your own brain tells you how to vote on this thing.
What you do is you sit down with your constituent, your brain, and you ask your brain, if I were a sane person, what do I believe in? And then you do that.
I don't think Craig Kelly's ever wondered if he was a sane person.
Yeah. It's fortunately it's not something he's had to contend with. So, but I love all this talk about, the Teal Independents are going to fucking break democracy. How are they going to? It's not supposed to work like this. We're supposed to have a bunch of safe seats, and then these Teal Independents come in here. These are our seats by right. Okay, these are seats with a bunch of coalition voting people, and they belong to us. So if you're going to vote for someone else, that breaks that system. And people are I know. That's why I'm keen to do it.
That's why I'm doing it. It's the thing of, it's should we still have political parties? It's no, not in an ideal world. Well, for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's do it then. Let's make it that way.
We
you don't
could
like
just
the system?
do that.
Yeah, you don't like the system? Change it.
Yeah, well, that's meant to be the, I believe it's called hang on, let me check my notes here. A democracy. I don't know what that's. I don't know. Not sure if I'm saying that. Democracy? No, I don't know.
Is that what they had in America when the demagogue was in charge?
I believe it was, in fact.
Oh, all right, cool. All right, perfect.
Yeah, it's a great system. A flawless system. Works 100%.
Absolutely flawless.
100% of the time, every time.
Oh, it's an absolutely flawless system, providing everyone has the utmost integrity and ethics. And, that's always been true. For the entirety of human history, that has always been the case. I don't know why you're looking it up, George. Don't bother.
Anyway, completely unsurprising that the United Australia Party are going to preference the Liberals, but I mean, actually, something which was a real shocker. I was up visiting my mum in, she's in the seat of Menzies, which is traditionally a very safe Liberal seat, and I was actually quite shocked at the amount of United Australia Party signs that I was seeing around the place. Like it's been traditionally very safe Liberal territory. But I wonder if, I don't know. See, this is the thing, is like you are kind of extrapolating how much of that grassroots enthusiasm is like
$100 million worth of advertising.
I mean, who knows if it's that or if it's just like you've got like 5 enthusiastic racists in a suburb. And so they're the ones that put up signs and it makes the sign. But it does look like driving through, you're like, I'm not seeing a lot of signs up for the Liberal candidate. I don't know if it's just evidence of spending on signs, but like there does seem to be a not insignificant contingent in these previously very safe Liberal seats that are, okay, well, if we're going to stay on the Conservative side, if we're not going to go teal independent, we might go with the virulent racists instead. Like that seems to be pushing further right.
Yeah, it can go either way, right? If we're all united around the idea of that we hate Scott Morrison and the coalition, they'll be like, all right, sick. Well, I want the people who like them, but not them, or we'll go for independent or Labor or whatever. It can go either way. It'll be interesting. We're a week out, 6 days.
So on that,
6 days.
Labor leader Anthony Albanese has been caught doing the absolute bare minimum by advocating for a 5.1% wage rise in line with inflation.
Okay. So that sounds good to me. Like inflation's gone up, maybe wages have to go up to compensate for inflation. But I don't read finance books for fun. So go ahead, George.
No, I think all the commentary around this is like pretty interesting. You know, they're talking about it for a good 45 minutes on Insiders this morning. But like, it is a thing where if you raise wages, then if we understand inflation as too much money chasing too few goods, which is like a very, very oversimplified version of what it is, and especially the kind of inflation that we're experiencing right now in this economy is largely contextual. It's like due to the pandemic and supply shortages and like lockdowns in China, meaning that goods aren't getting made, which means the remainder of the goods that have been made or are being made, there's fewer units of them. And so the price goes up. So it's like, I don't think the problem is that Australians have too much money sloshing around in their pockets necessarily. It's like the inflation that we're experiencing. And it's the reason we know that is because other nations similar to Australia all around the world are experiencing similar levels of inflation. So it's not a context that's like unique to us necessarily.
Yeah.
Okay. But, you do. So say we're like pandemic aside, put all of that out of your mind. If you do have a regular situation where inflation's going up and you bring up wages as well, that could fuel further inflation. If the problem is people have got too much money in their pocket, and there's too much money chasing too few goods, and you give them more money, well, that's just going to exacerbate the problem.
Yeah. They still don't have anything to spend it on.
So I think that criticism is like fair enough, but I think that it's kind of like the bare minimum it is like literally entry-level table stakes for a Labor leader. Labor, which allegedly comes out of the union movement, which is the whole reason it exists is to create better conditions for the workers. I think it's kind of like all he's saying is a wage rise that keeps pace with inflation. So all it means is like inflation goes up 5%. If your wages go up 5 or 5.1% in this instance, All it does is means you're not going backwards. Your money, the amount that you're getting paid per year, is effectively the same as it was last year. We're not even.
Yeah.
He's not
You're
even
maintaining
arguing
the current standard of living.
Yes, all he's arguing. It's such the barest of minimums.
Right,
it's like
I get it now. Yeah.
All Anthony Albanese is saying is that like I don't want Australians on the minimum wage to go backwards, and Scott Morrison's like, fuck, it's gonna fuck the fucking economy. Everything's fucked. It's cooked. The house is gonna burn down, and it's like no.
Like, one, they don't own a house. That's also another problem. Let's talk about that as well.
We're millennials. We don't own houses, you idiot. So yeah, I think it's like, I think Scott Morrison's critique is like technically correct, but would be like, it would be a much more credible critique if the Liberal Party hadn't been pledging $833 million a day in campaign campaigns. Whilst they had been in campaign mode, they've been pledging $833 million every day during the campaign, which could be conceived of as inflationary if it goes into the economy. Because the way you got to think of it is like the whole like taxing, the tax system is to like, it's money going out of the government and into the economy, or vice versa. So the more money that the government pushes out in spending, the more goes into the economy. So if you're introducing $833 million a day in new commitments, that's all money that's going out of the government and into the economy, which would likely cause inflation. Now, you need to do stuff. You need to build things. The whole point of government spending money is to do stuff that people need.
Yes, if it improves supply or if it improves, productivity, whatever, then
this is what Labor's been arguing is like, the money we're going to spend isn't spending that increases inflation because it improves productivity. And productivity is kind of a nebulous sort of idea. We don't really have time to cover it today, but the idea is that like, okay, say we're spending money on infrastructure. Infrastructure is a perfect example because like for every dollar you put into infrastructure, you get several dollars back in benefit for the taxpayer, for the community. So it's like you're building an underground rail line, putting stuff underground. Well, maybe more people can get into work more easily and undertake more economic activity. And that means they've got more. So it's like, it's a positive thing that you're spending this money. It's not just distributing the same amount of pie to more people. It's like we're increasing the size of the pie, right? That's the whole idea behind economic growth.
Gotcha.
As to the extent that Labor's policies will actually do that is another question entirely, but that's the argument that they're making. The thing that's just like infuriating about it is we're all talking about like, 5.1%, it's impossible. It's going to break the fucking economy. It's like, where's the getting ahead? Where's the increase in wages? You know, the Labor Party is like, I'm concerned that it's like not progressive enough. They're like, we don't want people going backwards.
You're only concerned about that now?
We don't. No, I've always been concerned about it, but it's like, they're like, we don't want people going backwards. I'm like, how about people going forwards? Like having, here's an idea.
Yeah. More
money than they need to just scrape by and live. Maybe they could have money that they could save. And then maybe that's money that they could then deploy in other areas of the economy that would make it go faster.
Like they could use to build wealth for themselves to then have to then live this dream you've been selling us for decades, right?
Indeed. It's also like not how the minimum wage is set as well. And it just shows how little we've been talking about this as a society, that like all the reporters that are talking about this have to do explainers on how the minimum wage is actually set. Because like, this is just obviously Australian, real wage increases have not been a thing that we've really had to concern ourselves with in recent years. But what it does so the way it works is the Fair Work Commission holds an annual wage reviews and they receive submissions from various stakeholders. Now, previously, they've sort of been stacked with LNP, donors or heavyweights or former party members or, there's a lot of like LNP shills that then get a cushy job over at the Fair Work Commission and then they do exactly what the LNP tells them to do. So it's hardly like a fully impartial body. And turns out like, they're always wanting to keep wage increases like pretty close to the CPI, to the inflation rate.
Yeah. Which is, George?
The CPI rate. Well, that's inflation. So currently that's 5.1%.
I was trying to get you on whether you knew the number. Yeah, no, you got it. Well done.
So it's not the government. Like Anthony Albanese comes in and goes, everyone. And by the way, this like 5.1% wage increase that's going to like break the fucking economy and like, you know, pigs will, you know, cats will fall from the sky. It's going to be raining cats and dogs, fish, you know, the firstborn dies, rivers of blood. The 5.1% increase equates to about $1 an hour. And I understand that there's like flow on effect. So it's like if someone's earning, the bottom earner is earning $20 an hour and now they're earning 21, then like the level above them goes up $1, then the level above them goes up $1 as well. So like it has flow on effects all above the like up the chain if you're on an award. I get that. But it's also like, it's $1 an hour, guys. Like everyone just calm down. This is like the very bare minimum of what a left Labour-based party whose power is in the unions is the bare minimum of what they should be advocating for.
Like it's very, it is hardly apocalyptic.
No.
To go an extra $1.
God, could you imagine if we asked for a 10%? 10%
Holy
increase?
Shit.
And the thing is,
Jesus.
It's because it's the minimum wage that we're talking about. It is going to positively affect the people at the very bottom of the scale who are the ones that are struggling most with cost of living increases. If you're earning 150K a year, if petrol goes up, your average tank goes up to $80 from $60, it doesn't fucking affect you whatsoever. But if you're on the minimum wage, that is a big deal to you. So like if we're talking about cost of living increases, helping people at the bottom, this is exactly the sort of thing that you would do. Increase the wages to help those people at the bottom.
Yeah.
A person who's on, who's an executive at a company, he negotiates his own contract. The award wage of like what fast food workers are making per hour does not affect him whatsoever.
No.
Like it doesn't affect his salary because his value is like decoupled from that hourly rate. It's all like stock, incentives and things like that. Like it's completely unrelated.
And it's a whole other world, which is why it's also probably a huge problem of the kinds of people that are then in government, right? Like if they're all divorced from this understanding of life and living and all these sorts of things, then they're not the best ones to do it. Which is why it's interesting. Getting way off track, I think, here with this one, but like Anthony Albanese's angle in a lot of his campaign material referring to his upbringing, in commission housing with his single mum, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, cool. So, but rather than just marketing yourself with that,
what are you going to do to help that person who was you?
Help young you. Actually, do that.
And I mean, they've announced like some social housing that they're going to build and building some housing for, women escaping domestic violence and things like that. It's a drop in the bucket compared to what's needed, but at least it's something, I guess. Anyway, all they're proposing, this like whole wedge issue of like, the Chicken Little, the sky is falling. Like all Labor is proposing to do is like make a submission to the Fair Work Commission like everyone else who gets to make submissions.
They can't just do it.
They can't do it.
They don't just click their fingers.
All they're doing is saying, we want to say to the Fair Work Commission, we reckon Australians should get a pay increase. And the Fair Work Commission will go, great, thanks, duly noted. We're going to do whatever the fuck we wanted to do anyway to begin with. And that's what we're going to do. So it's not as even they're coming in with an ironclad agreement of like, you vote for Labor, you're going to get an extra $1 an hour. Like, it's not even that. It's like, we'll send a very nicely worded letter.
We will ask very nicely for an extra $1 an hour.
God, and it's just like the fact, it just shows to me like how impoverished the discussion about labor rights is in this country. Is that just like the mere suggestion that you will get a cost of living increase so you don't go backwards causes conniptions in the Liberal Party is like fucking crazy. It's absolutely nuts that is their like, no, this is the hill I want to die on. 1 week out from the election, I will stand on this hill, Scott Morrison, and say, I don't want you to keep pace with inflation. Go fuck yourselves.
Yeah.
Like, who is ever against keeping what you already have in an election? It's such bad politics. Like, no, I want you to go backwards. Scott Morrison, authorised by Liberal Party camera.
Oh, that's incredible. Gee, his tack has really changed in the past week.
There's lots of him saying like, I know things are going to have to change. If I get back in, I think, which tells me he knows he's fucked, right? Like to be like I'm great, don't risk it with Albanese. We need to keep on keeping on. Like that's been their whole sort of slogan. To then go,
I'll be better next time,
sweetheart. Please. I'll change. Please take me back. I can change.
Yeah, please take me back. He's outside in the rain with the boombox.
Yes, yeah. He's I was going to say Joan Crawford. That's not the actor's name.
John Cusack.
John Cusack in whatever that movie was.
I forget what it is as well, and it's not even raining. I don't know why.
Don't say can't. I don't remember the name of the
10 more minutes. It's just amazing. He's changed track, calling himself a bulldozer.
Yes, I saw that.
I'm a bulldozer.
In retrospect, people will look at that moment because Anthony Albanese's response was just like that one time where Rocky's just getting punched in the head, just go right there. That one time where he just like lands a single punch back on the enemy, and that's when the enemy staggers down. This is that moment is when Anthony Albanese says he bulldozers wreck things. I like to build things. It was just like, Adrian, It's just that one time where the guy getting punched in the fucking head over and over again managed to land a single punch.
When he said that, that was such a whiplash moment for me because I heard that he calls himself a bulldozer, and then you hear Albo go, bulldozers destroy things. I was like, yeah. And he's like, I like to build things. Oh, you couldn't. You had a good line and then you made it a shit one.
But that's the first time, and it just seems like such a basic entry level fucking political statement to say is I support building things. This guy likes to wreck it. Like they served it to him on a silver platter and he still didn't quite nail it. But
and it's just a very interesting vehicle of choice for ScoMo to pull out of his ass. Just to be like, I'm like a bulldozer. I was like, what? You, even in construction projects, do you realize what the bulldozer's for? The bulldozer is for destroying, removing crap so you can build something new. So what you're saying is tear down the system, which sounds a lot like the kind of shit we say.
Yes.
It's like if ScoMo's new policy platform is wheel out the guillotines, maybe I'll vote for him next weekend.
Highly doubtful, Tom. We've got a first-time chat viewer, Grad. What does that say? Grad Gartwich?
Grad Gartwich.
Grad Gartwich saying Canberra political smackdown. I could watch worse things. I agree.
Be pretty great.
I think the leaders' debates would be significantly improved if they just actually had a punch on, because then we could see who the real winner is, as far as I'm concerned. Grad Gartwich likes the guillotine policy, so that's good.
Yeah, crack out the guillotines. We only have to do it to one of them. One of them, and the rest of them will fear us.
I would like to take this moment to stress that the Unnatural Selection Podcast does not advocate political violence.
Doesn't have to be political. We're talking about billionaires.
Just for legal cover. I believe it or not, I don't care who hears me. I'm against murder. So it looks like the Albo doing the bare minimum might be the thing that wins him the election, which may be the story of Anthony Albanese's entire life, is just kind of like failing upwards into the prime ministership. But I'm here for it. I would much prefer it than the alternative. To be clear, I would much prefer Mumblefuck Albanese to Scott Morrison under 6 days a week and twice on Sundays. Let's get it done, guys.
Mumblefuck. That's a new one.
And what was that slogan? It won't be easy under Albanese. What? Who the fuck comes up with these? Someone got paid for that. They're like, it won't be easy. Under
dunk. Are you
Albanese.
kidding me?
Okay, what is it? 10:30? I reckon that's lunch.
Yeah, if you're coming up with SmackDown slogans, that's a slam dunk.
Don't have the economy go slow-mo with ScoMo.
Yeah, that's Oh, was it you could say Scott No Friends, I think is one that my partner Alice said the other day. Yeah, it's a good one, but like not easy under Albanese's. That's just wow. That's champagne like sloganing in that sort of front. The thing that I find a bit weird, have you seen I only see like free to air television like when I watch
I'm so sorry.
Was it the cheap seats on Channel 10? I tune in for that because a friend of ours is one of the hosts, and it's a great show. I love it.
And it's a good show. It's an excellent show, which deserves to stay on the air.
No, it's great. Yeah. And the ads that come up into something when the political ones come up, that the Liberal Party have this one about Labor's like budget, and they're singing Dear Liza. There's a hole in my bucket song, Liza, and they change, but they change Liza to Labour, and it's painful to hear. Like it comes on, and I'm like, this is bad.
Could you imagine the muso, the obviously leftist muso that got hired to write this fucking jingle, and they're like, man, I got so much student debt. I have to write this fucking jingle, but I have to do it. I have to do it though. They're giving me like $3,000. I can't say no to this.
It's just so painful. But no, not easy on Albanese. That's just that was a gift to them. I think when they I think probably day one of any like campaign cycle surely is all right. I want 100 puns about the opponent's name on my desk by lunch.
And we make fun of it, but like the bill that Australia can't afford was a very effective line against Bill Shorten during the previous election cycle, because they came with let's be honest, frankly, a much more ambitious agenda in terms of like reducing, dividend franking tax credits and like, reducing negative gearing, like all of these sorts of, they came with a pretty ambitious progressive agenda, which would, I don't want to say, I don't think it would have increased taxes, but it certainly would have wound back a bunch of impractical tax concessions that are currently on the books. And so would have increased the tax burden on people who could, let's be honest, pretty easily afford to pay it, given their, a number of rental properties that they're using to, or large stock portfolios that they're using to generate these returns. But yeah, bill that Australia can't afford, that absolutely fucking nailed Bill Shorten, because like, well, taxes are going up. His name's Bill. He's a piece of shit. Let's go. It worked, because that was like political advertising at its finest. But I also think that like Anthony Albanese is less of a hard edge of a character. He's just kind of like just kind of like a fumbly dad.
George, who is he? Who is Albanese? I've never heard of him. I've never heard of Albanese. No one knows anything about him.
No one knows who he is. He's been in public service for 27 years. He was the Deputy Prime Minister. Don't worry about it. No one knows who he is. Who is this unknown quantity?
I hear he DJs like a mad cunt. No, wait, sorry. That was John Howard.
Also true.
True.
Greg Gardowich says Albanese's best move is to say, I'm not friends with Dutton, then drop the mic. Yeah, undeniably, like the Liberal Party, I mean, so assuming that Josh Frydenberg loses his seat in Kooyong, which is looking increasingly likely.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
It does look like the default Labor of the Liberal Party will be Peter Dutton, assuming that the Liberals lose and Scott Morrison resigns. So yeah, I mean, I think the most effective move for anyone on the left side of politics is to say, I'm not a friend of Dutton's. Like, surely for the vast majority of people, that would be an effective political line. It's just people who just have no potential. It's just like a Senator Jackie Lambie in Tasmania just says like, I'm not a friend of Peter Dutton. We go, yeah, on you, Jackie. Like, there's no reason to think we would be friends, but just in case it's not clear.
I had another like, oh God, don't tease me, because if it doesn't happen, it'll be awful. I think it was at Reese Muldoon. You know Reese Muldoon? The actor. Actor was on Play School and stuff as well.
He was in Rake. He was one of the solicitors in Rake. Yeah.
That he and others were talking on Twitter about that Dutton's quaking in his boots about his seat as well. And I was like, is that true? And like Reese Muldoon was pretty confident, being like, oh yeah, it's true. And I'm like, oh my God. If Frydenberg, like Tim Wilson, Peter Dutton, if they all went down, George,
Don't get me wrong. I just don't want to get over my skis on this. Like, I really want them to go down like a sack of shit. Like, I want them to go down hard, but every part of me is praying for like a Western Australian style wipe out. Where it's just like the amount of Liberal Party seats that are left is like not enough people to fill a canoe. Like I absolutely dream, I yearn for that deeply within my soul, but like I doubt it. I just very much doubt it.
Yeah, I doubt it, but I feel it's like if it's those specific people disappeared, it would make my year.
Speaking of Liberal Party members that we would like to disappear, Fiona Martin.
Oh yes.
So
yes, this was so uncomfortable.
It was bad. God. You know, every now and then, it doesn't happen often, but every now and then I really see a politician as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like, I see their little tiny heartbreak. And like, generally if they're not on my side of politics, I kind of do the Nelson from The Simpsons. I just kind of go, ha ha. But this moment kind of, it kind of stung a little bit because I knew she made a mistake and she didn't mean to do it, but it was also extremely funny and racist that she did do it. So Fiona Martin was on a 2GB program on the Ben Fordham Live on the radio this week. And she claims, so Fiona Martin, current Liberal MP, and she says that Sally Sitou, her Labor opponent, was, quote, kicked out of Fowler by Christina Keneally. The only problem with that, well, let's play the clip. You can see the clip, and then we can talk about why it's hilarious and racist. Okay, here we go.
You don't live in the electorate. She wasn't born in the electorate. Who cares?
Well, I grew up in the electorate. I've got deep roots in the electorate and I care very much. So, Ben,
I just want to know, I didn't want to raise this, but I chose to live in this electorate because I love the community.
Because you found an opportunity and you couldn't run in Fowler. Christina Keneally kicked you out of Fowler too.
Now she's just making things up. I mean, that's how ridiculous this debate has gotten. And I'm really sorry that your listeners have had to listen to that. We were fortunate enough to be able to afford to buy a little townhouse in Homebush, and I'm really proud of that. My son goes to the local school. I'm on the PNC. He plays in the local football team. It's a community that we love, and we are proud to be raising our family there.
It's just like, oh my God. It's you can see that it's so uncomfortable. Like
it's just bad. It's so bad.
You don't know who you're talking to, do you? Like you've
So in case you're wondering, in case you haven't like put it all together yet, like how did Fiona Martin like not understand? Like, to be clear, Sally Sitou did not run in the seat of Fowler, has never run in the seat of Fowler, hasn't tried to run in the seat of Fowler. What could she be talking about? Well, the comments Peter referred to lawyer Tu Lee, who had hoped to run in the seat of Fowler in Sydney's southwest until Labor parachuted in Christina Keneally to run in that seat. And we talked about it at the time, how it was like unfortunate that like someone who's like quite progressive, seems to have a lot of community roots, like is getting displaced by this national figure just because they're a heavyweight in the Labor Party. That seems unfortunate when we could use more of these progressive Labor candidates coming up from the grassroots. Miss Sitou and Tu Lee are two different people. So clearly what's happened, I don't need to say clearly because I don't know for sure. Like I haven't got a DNA test or anything to say for certain. But like it seems as though Fiona Martin has confused one Asian Australian for another Asian Australian and thought that they were the same person. And that's who she was running against.
Yeah, not being quite briefed on who your opponent is. And that's me being like generous. Yeah, right? Like
so
having your
best case scenario is you're a fucking idiot and you don't know who you're running against.
Yeah, best case scenario, you are woefully underprepared and should not be doing this. Worst case scenario, racist as fuck. It's just so bad. 'Cause when I first heard this, I saw like the headlines going around and I was like, oh fuck, do you call someone a different name or something? Yeah. And oh man, I was like, oh no, you like took what you believed to be their history and tried to use it against them.
Yeah.
In this sort of situation. I was like, no, yeah. So that's a lot more thought goes into this. A lot more assumptions and beliefs of who you're talking to go into this.
The seat that they're in is like a key seat. If the Liberals want to retain power, like Fiona Martin's seat, the seat of Reid, is like a key one for them to hold.
Yeah.
So like, did you not do a Google of your opponent? Like, just like a straight up, just a Google, just a quick, just type it in, just even a Bing, like Bing.
Yeah, just Bing it. Bing that. Jeeves will know.
Ask Jeeves. Yeah, Jeeves always comes back with something. All you needed to do to not have this happen to you was like some basic Googling about your opponent. I don't understand. And then she was saying like, she then goes on to say like, I would never use a racial slur. And it's like, no one said that.
After this story came out, after like this was picked up and people like called her out on it and all this sort of stuff. Fiona Martin took to, I think it was to Facebook or something like that, and just sort of doubled down on it, saying like, all this controversies, like this is a Labour Party scheme or whatever, like I'm not going to be distracted by this. I would never, I'll quote her here, my record makes clear I would never direct a racial slur at anyone. It was like, okay, no one said you did.
Literally, no one said that.
No one was complaining. Like, no one was calling you out for, like, dropping the N-word or something. Like, no one was saying that. You don't, like, racism isn't be-all, end-all racial slurs. There's other things. You can be racist without dropping a racial slur.
That's a super cool straw man, Fiona. Cool straw man that you've got there, bro. It also like, to say like, I would never say the N-word, and that's a terrible, filthy, scurrilous accusation for the other side to level at me. It's like, no one said that.
No one did. No one leveled that.
Like, it's racist because I guess you think that all Asian ladies look alike and that they're the same person because they're on the Labour side. Like that's the racist part. If there is a racist part, which I think, it's not even like an overt act of racism. All it shows is that you've got like a bit of racism in your heart. Like that's so much worse because it's like accidental. It's like deeply embedded within you. You didn't even have a choice in that. That was just your brain doing its normal thing, not even trying to be racist and just coming across as racist.
And the thing that is, I don't know, I think even on top of this, like even on top of like the fuck up itself, and then like saying like, the response being, no, I don't use racial slurs when no one brought that up in the first place, is that, like, publicly at least, Ms. Sitou, all she's asked for is an apology.
Sure.
Like, it was just saying, like, I would like an apology for mistaking me for a different person. And, like...
She didn't even bring up the racial aspect of it, which was, like, very big of her to be like, hey, you mistook me for another person. And that's all I'm going to say on the matter. Like, I'm not going to say the thing that we're all thinking, which is, like, you can't tell one Asian lady apart from another. We all know that's what's happened. But I'm not even going to, like, drill you on that. I'm just going to ask for an apology for the very obviously wrong thing that you said about me.
And I think, sorry, context around that. I think she was asking for the apology. This is after that she's posted her I don't use racial slurs comment.
Sure.
To say like, saying, quote, I'm disappointed that Fiona Martin is doubling down on her accusations about me. Campaigns are stressful and she made a mistake. Like, she's being the bigger person here to be like, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that you just fucked up. And could you just apologize for mixing me up? Whilst that would have... If you're Fiona Martin's campaign advisor or whatever, isn't that your first thought?
Yes.
Like, just apologize for mixing it up. Like, play it as a thing of, we make mistakes. I mixed up a person, blah, 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 blah. I've mistook her for someone else. I'm so sorry. Or, like, I was briefed incorrectly by an intern. You can even throw an intern under the bus. Yeah,
throw an intern under the bus. That's what they do all the time.
That would be a terrible thing to do, to be excusing, like, potentially some pretty racist behavior.
Yeah, the double down on it is weird. And they're like, no, I was trying to say...
like, they're seat shopping candidates.
Yeah,
like,
she was trying to make it...
that off the other person you were thinking about, not her.
Yeah, the fact that she's saying, no, I'm doubling down. It's about seat shopping candidates, which she is, and that was the attack I was trying to make, and not the... But it's like, but you just said a thing that was obviously true. You said she was in Fowler and she got kicked out. That didn't happen. That happened to someone else. Like, I don't know how you can think you can spin this by doubling down on it. Like, this is not going to go well for you. You just need to take the L and move on from this.
Like how...
Stop giving yourself news cycles. What are you doing?
Just to be like, I'm still, this whole thing's about seat shopping, which like maybe happened with in the seat of Fowler. But it's like, but that's not.
But that's a different seat. That's not your seat.
With an opponent. That's not what's happening with the sit out. So what the fuck are you doing? Like, that's so fucking dumb. Also,
I love this defense from her. Can I just, before I forget?
Oh yes, please do.
Another thing that Fiona Martin said, quote, I'm the granddaughter of Greek migrants and I grew up and went to school in Reed. She said, Australia is one of the most successful multicultural nations in the world and Reed is the jewel in the crown when it comes to multiculturalism. Our diversity is our strength. I'm sorry, just because you've got a yaya doesn't mean that you can't say something accidentally racist. That doesn't. I had a Greek grandmother as well, Fiona. Like, that doesn't help. You're not help. You can't go, I've got a black friend, so that means I can't be racist against Asians.
Yeah, no, you can't.
It's so confused. What a confused response.
Yeah, it's very much they're just throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. It's like, what works? That like, no, this is an attack from the other side that's baseless. Do I have any non-white background in my lineage? What can I do? Like,
I've got a black friend.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so fucking terrible. But also when I saw this clip, the thing that clued in as well, the opening sort of statement or question in the clip from. Who is it? Ben Fordham? I was like, that's not the question I'd expect to hear from someone from 2GB. Like one that's actually kind of like the right question.
That's a question that a journalist would be asking. Yeah.
Well, there's like, the thing of like, like you don't live there and she wasn't born there, but who gives a fuck? Being the question, why is that relevant in this instance? Good question. I didn't expect to hear that from 2GB.
Well, look, even a broken clock is right 6 times a day. I love that joke. It's such a dumb anti-joke, but I really appreciate it. So, last story, Defence Minister Peter Dutton, whilst we're muckraking about Asians, the Defence Minister Peter Dutton has said a Chinese spy ship has been seen near a secretive naval facility off the coast of Western Australia. So, fire up the klaxons, boys. The Chinese are here. They're ready for war. Right on the eve of an election. Isn't that convenient?
Not a moment too soon.
Oh, thank Christ. I got my message.
Yeah.
I thought we didn't comment about matters at sea, Tom.
But based on what?
Based on every statement this government has ever issued about boat people.
About
we don't comment
people,
about
like
on-water matters. We don't comment on on-water actions.
Or anything.
Things that happen on the water, we don't comment about. Unless, of course, there's a political advantage, in which case I will step on my own grandmother to get to a fucking microphone to tell everyone about this. Go ahead.
Yeah, so they think that this ship, they think it's a surveillance ship.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it, close to a secretive naval communications base. So it's not very secretive now, is it?
Yeah, well, we've kind of blown up everyone's spot on that now, haven't we?
If we're telling the public that there's a secret naval base out there, I mean, it's I don't know.
What do you think, Tom? Are we going to war?
No, God.
An unarmed spy vessel that we absolutely know is there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, should we go to war? What do you reckon?
I'm usually not the one to immediately rush to war over, I don't know, a ship went by in the ocean.
Fucking come out. A ship, which by the way, which was not in Australian waters, to be clear. It was in our exclusive economic zone, right? Which is like only Australia can take advantage of the resources within these waters. It's not quite international waters yet.
Yeah.
But it is not illegal for a Chinese surveillance ship to be there. Is it dodgy? Yeah, they're probably spying on some shit because that's what every global superpower does. We've got a facility called Pine Gap here whose whole reason for existing is to help the Americans spy on shit on this side of the world. So, it's hardly a surprising thing that, global hegemons spy on each other. But, the timing of it is pretty interesting. I wonder how often this sort of thing happens on a regular basis anyway, and they're just bringing it up to for their own Yeah, personal interest. We've got a fun little graphic here from the ABC News, which charts the movements of said ship on a day-by-day basis. It kind of looks like they're going to go park at the Chinese-owned port of Darwin. I wonder if that's potentially a security risk. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that was the Batutas take on it. I think I remember from this week was that Dutton exclaims that a Chinese ship is seen near the port that we leased to China.
Yeah, that we leased to them for 99 years.
Oh my God. It's like,
horrendous.
No, that's to be expected. Grad Gartwich in the comments also, this made me chuckle, sorry, just before, is that is the name of the naval base, the Streisand effect.
Yeah,
Very
well,
good.
it may as well be.
Like, yeah, at this point.
I didn't know that there was, also, it seems in bad taste. The naval base is called the Harold Holt Naval Base.
Oh, the naval station. Yeah.
Harold Holt is famously a prime minister that like went swimming one day and never came back.
Well, there is the Harold Holt Memorial Swimming Pool. Yeah,
it does seem in poor taste to name a naval base after the prime minister that drowned. Is that a thing? Is that really a thing?
Poor taste, but I think also the way I've had that explained to me is he was also like very into swimming. So people have done, he would have loved to have had a pool named after him because he was a very avid, passionate swimmer. But also, yes, he did die.
He did drown, presumably. No, Tom. We all know he was captured by the Russians in a submarine.
Hey, maybe he's the one piloting this surveillance ship. Maybe he wanted to come back, check out the place, be like,
It would age him at about 130, but I think it's possible.
Hey, anything's feasible.
Do you think this is genuinely like any sort of massive infringement on our national security? Should Australians be concerned about some Chinese spy ship off the coast of Australia?
I think it's about time that we crack each other's skulls open and feast on the goo inside, John.
Yes, I would, Kent.
Yes, I would, Kent. No more than anyone already is. You heard of the internet? Like, they're spying on us already.
Is anyone in doubt? Like, is anyone fooled by this? Like, does anyone think that Peter Dutton is doing this for any purposes other than to gin up the fear of national security prior to an election? Like, is there any other explanation for it?
That would be why it's being announced.
Sure.
Like, I've never worked in defense or any of that sort of stuff, but I would imagine if it was a thing of, hey, we might have, like, you know, like in all the movies, like, we got a bogey coming in. I know that's Air Force or whatever, but being like, we've got a potential Chinese spy ship coming in close to Australia, and get a 10-4, keep an eye on that. It'd all be briefed and just being aware of it and all that sort of stuff. You wouldn't be just immediately running to
Where's the minister? Sorry, he scheduled the press conference already. Gone.
You don't just immediately run for the podium and be like, they were spying on our secret naval base.
Yeah, it does seem like when disclosing top secret security information, you want to make sure that the enemy is completely aware of all your sources and methods as soon as possible.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
We want to know exactly. We want them to know exactly how we know what we know.
And I love just the sentence here in the article, this is here on the ABC, of Mr. Dutton denied that he was making the revelation to stoke national security fears and to woo votes ahead of the May 21 election. I think that's a completely, superfluous sentence. Call me when he says, no, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Yes.
Then I'll be interested to hear it.
Oh yeah, no, it's a completely callous attempt to win votes. Why do you ask? Sorry, the ABC. Wait a minute. Yeah, it's
it's so blatant. It's just brazen.
Exactly. It's so brazen, so blatant. And I know we should not expect anything better out of these pack of pricks, but it's still disappointing to see. It's still aggravating because I know that there's one fucking voter in a marginal seat that gazes at the Herald Sun dreamily on his way to work that's going to see a headline and go, oh no, you can't trust Albanese. We don't know anything about him. And is just going to vote for the LNP based on that half information that he gleaned off the side of a bus. I know that's going to affect some dumb prick as to who he votes for. But it's to me, it's just so obvious. It's so blatant. How is there literally one person that could fall for this? But they do. Obviously they do, because otherwise they wouldn't do it, right? Fear of loss aversion is a real thing. If you think you're going to lose something or you're under threat, that is a much more powerful motivating force for voters than, the potential of gain, right?
Yes. Sorry, can you hear my cat?
What?
On the feed. Like, he
What's
just keeps
doing?
coming in. Oh, he just comes in and just has a bit of a grumble at me, brushes up against my leg because he's like, "Hey Tom, it's 6:05.
Oh, buddy.
Dinner's usually at 6."
Maggie,
so
my dog
you're
Maggie
aware.
will do that. She'll come up to me and she'll be like, she'll kind of like dig on my leg, like me. I'm like, Mags, can you? I'm obviously in the middle of something. Can you just like fuck off for 10 minutes? Like putting a hole in the side of my leg is not going to get you your dinner any faster. But
Hudson's being very, very considerate. This is much quieter than you would normally be.
That's nice. He knows we're recording.
He's normally yelly, quite yelly.
He sees the flashing live light and he knows to behave himself. On that note, we are, and we always will be Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. Make sure you follow us on all the bullshit social medias that have, do, or ever will exist at Unnatural Show. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and motherfucking TikTok. And make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at George Tsipos.
You can follow me on Twitter at Tom D. Heath.
And you can follow us all down to Grad Gardowich, his house, to he's saying thank you for the lovely show. Thank you, Grad Gardowich. Thank you for watching live. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast to get episodes automatically downloaded to your Zune. Thanks for listening, guys. Love your faces. We will see you next week.
Cat.